Welcome to our latest episode of Coffee Talk, where we bring you, I would like to say, stimulating conversations with awesome leaders. My name is Charles Neal. I happen to be president of NAMIC Atlanta. And today we have Maryann Balbo, who's the group vice president for Cox Media Sales and Marketing. Welcome to the stage, Maryann. How's it going?
Good.
It's
How are
been a
you,
while.
Charles?
Not bad. It's been a while since we've seen each other. I mean, it's probably about 2 years where we actually been like, hey, how's it going in person?
I know.
And so before we get in, I have to ask you, what that almost looks like a reel-to-reel behind you. Is that what is that?
3/4 inch, my friend. I have a little collection. It's a small collection, but I have a collection of antique, I guess you would call them, radio, TV, equipment, basically how I started out in the business. So I guess it would be considered antique, but broadcast equipment that I love to find when I'm out antiquing. And it just brings me joy to think about how far we have come from when we started out in the media business to where we are today.
Listen,
I started out as a master control operator hitting the buttons, and I actually have a little button that I started out with that one of the engineers gave me as a gift one time. So I'm very nostalgic about the business that I'm in every day. So I love to collect.
You know, people of a certain age wouldn't realize that every once in a while you slap the side of that TV behind you or mess with the antenna
Oh yeah,
to get the
yeah.
lines
You
from
can't just
blurry.
speak into your remote like we do at Cox. My children actually, when they were little, they would go up to the TV and try to touch it. Because they think everything is like, touch screen. It's crazy. The world's
Yeah.
changed.
So, that's a great segue in, right? You said you were a controller, a master controller, if I heard you correctly,
Yes.
and now you're the VP of sales and marketing for Cox Media. Talk to me about that transition. How, what's a day in the life for you today versus back then?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I started out as a master control operator in a broadcast station. I didn't really even know what it was. I originally wanted to be a news reporter, and I changed my mind halfway through college and still knew I wanted to be in the media business, but I didn't know what. So I walked into a station, and the one lady said, "You'd come back with some more experience." And I went to another station, and they said, "Are you here for the master control job?" And I was like, "Yeah." Then I was like, "I
Yeah,
don't know what that is." So I walk in this room, there's all these buttons, all that equipment. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So I talked my way through it. And my boss at the time was a chief engineer. He said, I predict you have a very long future in our business, but probably on the sales and marketing side, because you have no clue what you're doing. I'm like, I did it. So I went from really being on the technical side of the business and one of the only females in that aspect of the business to working my way up through the broadcast and media world, including cable with Time Warner Cable back in the day, to really understanding how it all works together from production and engineering, but also sales and marketing in the digital realm. And that's how I landed here. And I really think that I've gotten here because I love the business, not necessarily because I was strictly focused on sales. But today, what I do is I am focused on sales and marketing for our organization, but it's really about providing solutions for our customers to help them to drive their business. So I feel like there's this mission of really contributing to the economy by helping small business owners as well as large to be able to continue to grow. And most importantly, my days are filled with leadership. I don't say duties. I say, the opportunity for me to be privileged enough and honored enough to be a leader of a fairly large organization, that I get to spend my days not just thinking about strategy and not just thinking about solutions, but also taking care of our people and helping them to grow and really thinking of what the future will be like for them so I can prepare them.
I mean, great segue. I mean, that was going to be my next question is, what does leadership mean to you? And then let's talk about how it differs a little from managing, right? You have a leadership hat, you have a management hat. What's the differentiator for you?
Yeah, I mean, as a leader, you're really responsible for people, right? And as a manager, a lot of times you can also be a leader in that aspect, and you are to a point. But a lot of times when people hear the word manager, they think about managing a process or managing a portfolio. And it's not about the tactics. The tactics, in my opinion, are just table stakes. You need to be really good
Yeah.
at your job at managing tactics, process, products, whatever it may be. Leadership is about taking it to the next level. It's about having that as you need to be an A++ student in that. That's great. But leadership is about how you help people to grow, how you're thinking about the future, how you create a safe environment of inclusivity, of people being able to be themselves and finding commonalities while also celebrating what's different about all of us and bringing those voices to the table to be able to really get the best out of people, which also helps our customers and our business and our people because they're being heard and they're contributing. And that's really where purpose comes into play, of people understanding how they're contributing to the bigger picture. So when you're a leader, you have a different responsibility. Yeah, you got to make your numbers. Yes, you got to check these boxes. That's table stakes. It's about so much more of leading the organization, leading people to success.
What type of leader would you call yourself?
I hope to be a servant leader. I think I have good days and some days where I struggle a bit in that, but I think the good days outweigh the struggling days. I I have transitioned in my career. I wasn't always like this. I started out as an individual contributor. I went into a manager role and I was managing tasks and numbers, et cetera. And even in the second or third role where I was leading people, I was still in that management mindset until I had a really great 360 done on myself where they my boss at the time, he interviewed people across the entire organization. He came up with some really great themes. And I found that I was getting it done like I had done as an individual contributor. I was getting it done through others, but I was pushing them in a way that worked for me instead of
Yeah,
understanding what
absolutely.
motivated others. So that was a real transition for me. And Good to Great, that book, which I absolutely love, there's a piece in there around that fifth level of leadership where you're preparing others to take on your role. And it helps them to grow, it helps you to grow, and it helps the organization grow. So I'm the type of leader that is all around growth opportunities. So sometimes it's easier for me to just get it done. I can do it quicker. I already know where to go, check the boxes. But I have to
Yeah,
step back and slow down and say, it's easy for me to do it, but that's not the right way to do it because that won't prepare anybody else if I'm not here tomorrow. So then I give those opportunities, those stretch opportunities to people to allow them to grow and build their confidence. And then I tell them, this is a safe space. You make the
yeah,
decision. I'm here to whisper. I whisper a lot in my people's ears. I'm here to whisper. You're in a safe space. And if you make a mistake, we'll learn from it. And more importantly, I got your back. And
yeah,
boy, does
yeah,
that make a difference when you tell somebody you got your back. I'm like, there's nothing we can't fix. It's just advertising. Okay. It's
right.
not brain surgery. We'll fix it. I got you. Tell me why you took it, why you made the decision, not why you didn't.
Like, what is the saying? Bad news doesn't get better with time and fail fast,
There
right?
you go. Fail fast. Fail fast. Learn
Fail
from
fast.
it. I ask my kids
So
all the
it's
time, what did you fail at today? What did you not do so well at school? And they're like, nothing. I'm like, then you didn't learn. Go back to school. The
mm.
taxpayers' dollars need to go back to work.
So it sounds like you're developing a great culture, right? And so how does that culture that you're manifesting, that you're driving, help drive results?
Goodness gracious. When you take care of your people, I'm stealing this from many, many brilliant leaders across the country. When you take care of your people and you develop that type of culture, they take care of your customers. This isn't I'm not the original thought leader around this, but I'm a true believer in that. And when you develop that sense of purpose with your people and you take good care of them and you encourage them to grow, et cetera, they will take on additional responsibilities, accountability. They're open to taking calculated risk. They do due diligence, and that helps to grow our organization. Because I've been in cultures where you didn't want to take those risks because you knew if you screwed up, you would be in trouble, right?
Yeah,
Well, then think about the missed opportunities of not having that entrepreneurial spirit. When you have a culture that is positive and puts their people first, there's a sense of safety that allows our people to deliver for our business. It's encouraged, and they understand how they're contributing. And I have a great example of this. When I was running a TV station, and Cox came calling and
Hmm.
asked me to go to Kansas to oversee Kansas, Arkansas. I'm from upstate New York. I didn't really know where Kansas was on the map, although Wizard of Oz is my favorite movie. And I was like, I don't know about that. And they explained to me what was going on in that market, that market they had high attrition, they hadn't been aligned to the Cox values. On the scorecard out of 10, they were always 9 and 10 for 7 years. It really needed someone to come in and really, assess the situation and be able to turn it around. So I was like, well, we're all moving to Kansas. That sounds amazing. And it's my strength. So we did. I moved my family to Wichita, and I did not make any changes to the business. I didn't tweak the rate card. I didn't start saying we got to do this from an inventory standpoint. I didn't fire anybody. I didn't do any of that. I focused on culture, on
Yeah.
developing really that sense of purpose, them developing it, me leading the way. And we developed a culture group. We put together our purpose. We did all of that. And we were just focused on really us and aligning with the values of Cox. And 11 months into it, my financial person tapped me on the shoulder and he goes, "We're going to make our budget this month." And I'm like, "What? I didn't even see that coming." 11 months into it, I'm still like doing my people piece. He's like, "Yeah, for the first time in 7 years, we're going to make a budget." We went from 9 and 10 that year to number 3. And the next year we went to number 1 on the scorecard. I still hadn't
That's
done a
what I'm
lot
talking
with the
about.
business. Don't tell everybody that. It was all about the culture. It was about the people. They did it. And now they're continuing with that really positive culture and people first focus. And they've become a model for other markets across the country. And I was promoted to this role where now I oversee 10 markets, where we've had
Yeah.
those same types of examples of how culture drives performance. And it comes out of the blue because if you're doing the right things, trust me, from a people standpoint, the business will benefit from it.
Yeah. A lot of times individuals don't understand the strengths of a learning organization or putting in a culture of winning, right? Individually, yeah, you can do something on your own, but when you start saying collectively as a group, hey, I have your back, you have my back, strengths, peaks and valleys within the conversation points that you're having or the workload that you have. So I'm with you. You're driving accountability, you're driving learning, you're driving the mindset that we're winners. And that didn't take, from your standpoint, having to let people go. That just took a slight shift in the paradigm that says, shift this up, make these adjustments. You probably put people in the right position. You may have had a lineman out there as a wide receiver,
That's
in football
exactly
terminology,
right.
football season's coming in.
You nailed it, Charles, because that's exactly what happened. We had people sitting in the wrong seats. And the
Yeah.
beauty of it is that when you create that type of environment, I could see that day one. But I didn't go down that road with them. They needed to come to that decision on
Yeah.
their own. And we have an example of one person who was sitting in the number 2 spot who realized after a lot of coaching that he was sitting in the wrong spot. He moved back into a different role, did that for a year, ended up moving back into that number 2 spot, and now just got promoted to a new market as a vice president.
There we go.
And it was all about contributing to the team, seeing where he fit in. And he made those decisions of moving back into the other role because he wanted to put the team first. He knew he was serving the team in that other role better than where he was.
Yeah.
That's
You
servant
know, you,
leadership.
so you've touched on a few points, right? You've talked about mentoring, in some respects
Oh
sponsoring.
yeah.
Obviously we know there's a difference, and so when we wear different hats, because I know I've seen you in rooms for different organizations, and being all about that networking, mentoring, and sponsorship. How has that helped you in your career, and what pearls of wisdom are you wanting to give to our audience that says, hey, this is how you should view networking to hopefully lead to mentorship and possibly a sponsorship?
Yeah, I mean, networking is the foundation of building relationships
Yeah.
and learning. and being a really good listener. So I love to network. I'm a people person. I'm a Gemini though, so I like to come home and take my heels off and be done with the day and not talk anymore. But I love while I'm out networking to talk, but more importantly, to listen and to be able to start to develop those relationships. Of course, finding commonality, but more importantly, being curious. You know, in the sales world, I had a leader back in the day who said, the great thing about salespeople is that you can go to any cocktail party and have a conversation because you know a little bit about every industry and you know the right questions to ask. So when you're in the process of networking, sorry, here comes one of my puppies. Sorry about that. When you're in the process of networking, you're developing those relationships. And when you find those commonalities, it's really important that you continue to garner. So what I would say is that it takes ownership. You can't just think that these things happen on their own. You've got to own it and you've got to the right way bring it along. And when you develop those relationships and you start to mentor or be a mentee, really it's a matter of finding value that you both are getting out of it. I mentor many people formally as well as informally. And I got to tell you, I know they get some from me. I get so much more from them. And when you see the value of being a mentor as well as a mentee, you put yourself out there because you want to do both. You know, it's important for me to learn how to learn from others when I'm always teaching, it feels like. So when I'm
Yeah.
meeting with my mentor, I'm like, oh, I get to put this hat on now. You know, what does that feel like? And there's nothing better when you're a mentor to have those conversations, invest in someone else, and to see them take some of your suggestions and actually put them into play. It doesn't mean that you have to do everything that they're asking, but at least try to do some, and then you'll learn from it. But I got to tell you, I've mentored people in the past, not now. I have a great group of mentors. I bring them all together quarterly and we talk about what we've learned. But in the past, I had a few people I mentored, and then we would get back together and I'm like, okay, so tell me, how did that go? How did that go? Like, I didn't get to it. And I'm like, well, then why am I meeting with you? Because
Yeah,
like,
you're wasting my time,
you
right? I could
wasted
be
my
giving that to somebody
time.
else.
Yeah, I want to hear. What did I, because I want to learn too. And then sponsorship is so, so important. And that's different than mentoring. Sponsorship is where you connect with someone and really they believe in your strengths and your ability to grow. And they're there when you're not in the room sharing those positive qualities about you. And I've been very fortunate through my career that I've had a lot of sponsors who I know have basically opened the door for me. Now I had to walk through on my own. Doesn't mean that they're going to do everything for you, but at least they opened the door. And I got to tell you that when you're walking through that door, you feel a very strong sense of responsibility, not just to yourself and not the excitement of what might be on the other side of the door, but for that person that opened the door
Yeah,
for you. You don't want to
yeah.
let them down, right? So putting yourself in that type of situation is really an opportunity for growth. And I think as a woman, a lot of times we we say, well, I'm not ready for that, or I don't check all the boxes, or it's not the right time. As women, we got to walk through that door. What's the worst that could happen? They say no. Then you say, okay, well, then why? So you can go back and work on it. Then it's a learning experience. I mentor through Path Builders. I'm a graduate of Path Builders here in Atlanta, and I love their programs. It's all focused on women and growing mentorship. And I'm a graduate, but I'm also a mentor now. And I've
Ooh.
mentored many ladies through that program, and one in particular who there was a job that came up, and she's like, "Well, my boss already told me I'm not in the running, so still go for it. Why? It's a great experience. And when you're done, if you don't get it, then you ask them why, and you write down all your notes and you go work on it because next time you want to be ready. That's
You want to be
sponsorship.
ready.
That right? That's mentoring. And I hope that
Yeah.
she pays that along because that's what it's all about.
You know, I love you, your energy, your spirit. I want to take that same energy. I want to pivot it for a second, right? Because we're in a phase within our economic cycle where downturns are happening, right? We don't know if it's a recession coming. We don't know if it's a force, all that stuff. But what we do know is the economy is slowing down. And when the economy slows down, things tend to happen. But you're in sales and marketing. And so I want to get your sense of in this downturn when people start spending less and they're looking at how to cut, what are there any strategic advantages for not cutting your sales and marketing budget? How, or what's your thought process when you talk about sales and marketing during a downturn?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the things that I have seen through my 25 plus career is that when we have these ebbs and flows through the economy, that I see businesses, and the first thing they do is they cut those things that are not tangible, and one of those is usually marketing. And I got to tell you that those that do just the opposite are the ones that come out at the top when
Yeah,
this is done,
yeah,
because it opens up the marketplace for additional share shift of business from their competitors. So, in my opinion, when the economy is downturning and you're having less sales, you should actually increase your marketing to tell people that you're out there, to market your business even more. Right. Yeah. In this day and age, everybody wants an ROI. I totally understand the attribution philosophy behind, if I'm going to spend this dollar, I want to make sure that I'm making $2 for it. And nowadays within advertising, there is ways to be able to show that, right? What you have to define what true success means for you. Is it people signing up for your newsletter? Is it, conducting business online? Is it people walking through your door? Is it your phone ringing? Like, we can help you with that attribution aspect of what success looks like, but being very specific about that to make sure there's an ROI, that hasn't changed. What has changed is as the economy perhaps is changing in this environment, and we're all kind of in this gray area and trying to figure it out. There's opportunity to shift share to your business. You can actually grow your business during this time by taking
yeah.
advantage of how your competitors are pulling back. Now is the time to be innovative, to find new solutions for people based on what their needs are in this environment. Also about how to serve them differently, correct, and how
Yeah.
to get your product in their hands differently, and tell them about it, because you can't just build it and hope they come. This isn't a baseball movie. Like, you have to tell people about it, right? Tell them how easy it is to do business with you. Show them the solution that you've given to them that maybe they haven't even figured out they needed yet, and be more proactive in that experience and that two-way conversation with your customers. Now's the time to take advantage of that, not pull back. Because once you pull back, all of that marketing that you did previously, you have to basically start over again, because you got to reintroduce your brand and get it back into there. And in the day, it used to take 5 or 6 times for people to see a commercial before it resonated. It's even more now. It's so noisy out there. So my advice always to business owners is, this is a time to not cut those things that you can't see, such as marketing, but instead invest in them and take advantage of the marketplace, knowing that your competitors will probably follow suit, and everybody pulls back. Why not step ahead?
No, awesome points. You mentioned one key point in there, which was innovation, right? And people who don't realize innovation comes at a cost of errors. You can't get it right all the time when you're innovating. It's just an oxymoron at that point, right? But
Yeah.
I wanted to, as we talk about innovating, you're talking about, moving forward into the future. Gaming is what, if you looked at the difference between gaming as a percentage of revenue compared to music and movies, gaming is killing both of them combined, right? And then you have the metaverse shaping and taking form. How do you view marketing as it pertains to gaming and the metaverse? Does your model shift? How do you add value in those arenas?
Yeah, it's still so new for for some of us, and it's so native to others. So, the emerging blockchain space is so awesome, and it's truly a disruptor of what we consider today as the back in the day used to be called the Wild Wild West. Or
Mm,
I used to have these folks in the traditional media organization call it the internet, right?
yeah,
This is a true disruptor of the internet, and it's all about that experience. It's all about that relevant messaging. My little girl is 9 years old. She's teaching me about gaming, and goodness knows, I look at my American Express card. I'm like, wait, we bought a Louis Vuitton scarf for your
that you can't even
character?
wear.
That happened. Why don't you get my password first of all? But there's this the influencer world in the social space, and with these new platforms, the ownership for creators, and that diversification of driving, revenue. Participants can own pieces of this now. There's this abundance of information. We've got to shift our model to be able to provide that type of experience for our customers. And it's accessible to the masses. Now we have to use data to make sure that our advertisers are targeting their potential customers, because there is a mass audience, but you can't market to the mass audience. You got to make sure that you're targeting the right people. We're still figuring this out. And I'm super excited about what the future holds for this. It's a new way for businesses to connect with their customers. And you can use that by building, your brand, whether it's, virtual billboards, like you're driving on, I-85, or, conduct commerce, using video, animation, podcasts. I mean, it's just surreal. So I would suggest to anybody who's listening, watching, go and do some exploration. Get yourself, your Oculus. Go out there and just start to explore and be curious about it, because nobody's quite figured it all out yet. So this is a place to get in early, because it's not a matter of if people are going to go there. It's just a matter of when. And it's already taking off. And it's the same thing in the gaming space. I mean, it's like I said, I see my credit card and I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, and these are like non-tangible things, right? That we like more than, she doesn't want a toy anymore. She wants more
Yeah,
coins, right?
yeah,
To be able to
yeah.
play these games. And mommy's like, well, teach me how to do it, because I want to understand how, from a advertiser standpoint, I can immerse into the experience, with that good old fashioned product placement or whatever that looks like, to be able to drive business. So the world's a really exciting place right now, and the media business is constantly changing. It's the only thing that's pretty consistent, and it's exciting to be a part of it.
You know, I could almost imagine if your daughter's like one of mine, my youngest, she has a job in the metaverse in Roblox. She's an ambulance driver and a whole host of other things. And the funny thing is, you said your Oculus. I'm ashamed that mine is so close by me. I'm like, when you said, I looked at like, ooh.
Roblox too. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that's that Minecraft. I mean, all of that. Yes.
And so you mentioned native earlier, and so people don't realize it. Oh, if you're out of the demo, you don't get it. But for those who are native to this, they're growing up and they will continue to be native to it. They're not going to grow out of it. They're going to evolve with it, or it's going to evolve with them, right? And so, hopefully there isn't a big miss well, there is always going to be a big miss from some companies, but other companies are going to leverage it and figure it out, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned data earlier as well. And so, I was on a call with on my wearing my other hat on my day job, and someone was asking the question, what do you do with all of that data when you start looking at inbound sales, right? It's people calling in, their name comes up, you have a data because you have all the data because they subscribe to your service. You know their trends, you know their likes. If your data is structured in a way that you can put machine learning and AI on top of it. Now it's not just, they could be calling in. You're probably like, oh, you're calling about this problem. But you know what? And it's not even an upsell to a point. It's like, I know for a fact you like this, because unless somebody's hacked your account, you're on these things all the time. And so the suggestive nature of what you should be presenting to individuals is in play as well. And so, I'm actually going to have a series on data and all of the great and wonderful uses that you can have. And then also the other side of the coin is, is there going to be misuse with your data, right? And so, that's a plug, shameless plug, more to come on that.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and I think it's a great point, because, to my point earlier about the mass audience, if it's not relevant to me, I'm not interested. But if it's relevant, I'm very interested, because it saves me time, it's more efficient, and it might help to solve a problem for me that I can easily get done. So, well, what I have found in the shifting of advertising is that the mass audience piece is not as relevant anymore as the audience based selling, of really focusing on who your audience is, and providing that relevant information. And what we've found is that the consumer is open to it. They don't want
Yeah.
all this stuff blasting in their face and all that noise that's not relevant. But if it's relevant, they're like, bring it in, because I actually am interested in that. And so it's a shift from that broad mass media to very targeted approach to marketing and looking at your audience, and use data in order to do that.
Oh Lord, I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole with you on that, because we could talk for another hour just on that topic alone. Because there's just people know more about you. You know, the algorithms know more about you. Subconsciously, you think you're doing A, but the data shows B, and you just don't even realize it. But I'm gonna get you out of here on this last question set, right?
Yeah.
Which is, um, you know, long day, long week. You say, okay, God, actually, it's a long weekend. What's your passion? What's your stress relievers? How do you wind down so that when you go back into work next week, you're giving all of this fabulous energy to the workforce?
Yes, yeah, that's a great question. And it's so important. I remember reading back in the day how I'm a huge Oprah fan. Oprah on Sundays, like, doesn't leave her house, right? I don't get that quite, because I have two small children, not too small anymore, but still children and responsibilities. But I love to have no makeup weekends. That's like my thing. No makeup. Let my face breathe, my hair and everything. It's fantastic. Go out in a baseball cap. I love it. That's number one. Number two, there's a Johnny Cash quote where he talked about the definition of heaven. And he said it was, and I'm going to mess it up, but basically he says, it's drinking coffee with her this morning, meaning his wife. My husband, for our anniversary, had this huge picture made, handmade in his writing. And he has walking the dogs with her, and he has definition of heaven, and he signed his name. That's really how I get my stress relief. We have two big Great Pyrenees dogs. We go out together and we walk the dogs, and it's just like no phones. You're out in the neighborhood, you're seeing folks, you're focused on the puppy dogs and all their craziness, and just to be together, like, that just relaxes me, and it gets me in the right frame of mind, gets me out of my office. And it gets me really connecting with my husband more, which I need to do. And then, of course, I have a 13-year-old son who's a star football player and a guitarist. So I love to root for him. He's a little competitive. And then he has gigs that he does with his teacher at a local brewery. So we go listen and play guitar. And then my daughter and I like to shop together, and rearrange her room. And then my guilty pleasure is watching on Netflix the show Home Edit. There are many, there's many episodes that are done here in Atlanta. Don't watch it unless you're ready to go to the Container Store. I'm just telling you now. It is all about organization of your home. They do it in rainbow colors. I'm completely obsessed. So that's my guilty pleasure.
Look, I'm shipping that last one over to the wife, but I'm taking her credit cards.
Yeah, you don't want to go there with that.
Right. I don't want that. Well, Maryann, listen, it has been so much fun. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as well. To our NAMIC Atlanta audience, this is Maryann Balbo, Group Vice President at Cox Media. Thank you, and we appreciate your time.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Charles. Thank you. Connect with me on LinkedIn, everybody.